Hey guys, Keegz here, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, or MCU as for short. Now, the Marvel movies have been around since the first Iron Man, and no, I'm not talking about the X-Men movies, or Spider-Man, or Blade, or any of the other Marvel movies that came before that. I'm talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a series of films that with each character exists in the same universe. You got Iron Man, you got Captain America, you got Spider-Man, Black Panther, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, the list goes on. In fact, they even cross over with each other once in a while. You get some crossovers in Civil War, you mainly get a lot with the Avengers. And then you get some with like, I don't know, Spider-Man Homecoming. But you know, a lot of these movies are really fun and entertaining. Even though there's a lot of flaws with these movies, they're still the price of admission if you want to check it out, especially for comic book fans. And we're going to start down with my top 10 favorite movies. Now, before I get started, I don't want to include Avengers Infinity War in this list, even though I just saw it today, and there's a lot to think about. That's going to be a separate video, where I'm just going to be reviewing and spoiling the hell out of that movie. So, that one's going to come out pretty soon. Right now, I'm just going to be talking about the top 10 movies. Number 10. Captain America Civil War is actually kind of a similar film to another superhero movie that came out in 2017, and that is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. These two movies have very similarities, except one actually sucks, the other one's actually pretty good. The one that is good, obviously, is Civil War. The thing that makes Civil War a bit better than Batman v Superman is because we already know these characters from previous Marvel movies. We already know Captain America, we know Iron Man. We are getting introduced to two new characters, I can say that, but they have a better introduction than having Wonder Woman just shoved in randomly in Batman v Superman. Black Panther's pretty cool, I loved seeing him in the movie, but I was most excited of seeing Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Spider-Man was supposed to get his franchise before with the Amazing Spider-Man films, and that didn't go pretty well. So I'm happy that Spider-Man makes his debut in this movie, and that's a credit to look forward to. Also, the best moment of the film is that airport fight scene when the Avengers are fighting each other, and they're trying to figure out what's the right decision, even though they're trying to sign this Soviet Accord agreement that Captain America doesn't like, and Iron Man's like, oh, I'm siding with the government because they're more safe and protective. And we need to be put under check. I really did not like Tony Stark in this movie. I was more on Team Captain America's side the whole time, since I understood his reasons to, you know, go against the government, or not against the government, my bad. I understood Captain America's reasons to not work with the government anymore, since, you know, the events from another film that I'm going to get to was sort of a reason for that. But this is a fun action movie with great cinematography and great choreography with the action. The story could be a bit iffy sometimes. This is a very long movie as well, so it can kind of drag a couple of times. But the best moments is the action and some of the characters and little one-liners. Though there is like a moment that kind of was unnecessary with the humor, and it just felt a bit out of place. It was just too much humor, and it can kind of get old a couple of times. Also, the villain Zemo, is that his name? Zemo was a weak villain. Like, Zemo was a pretty weak villain in this movie. I mean, his motivation was basically the same as Lex Luthor's motivation from Batman v Superman, and it kind of turned me off on that. Now, when I saw Civil War for the first time, I actually really loved the movie. It was quite enjoyable. In fact, I was kind of going too far, ranking it as my all-time favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Then I watched it again, and my love for it kind of died down. I'm not saying I hate this movie. In fact, there is a lot of good stuff in it, but there is a lot of questionable, like, what moments, and the villain was really weak in his plan. And Tony Stark was kind of a douche. I mean, he was kind of being his... Like, now I know he's like a douchey asshole in these movies in the comics, but he was kind of like annoying douche. Like, he was like, oh, I want to be on this side. Like, I don't know. Overall, Civil War is a still enjoyable film that is worth the watch. Number 9. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The second Guardians of the Galaxy is still a fun sci-fi comedy movie. There are some really fun moments in it. I think the problem with it is just it doesn't break grounds like the first Guardians of the Galaxy did. In fact, even though the villain is better in this one, I just feel like the Guardians of the Galaxy didn't explore anything amazing and interesting. The whole time they were on a planet, mainly, and it was basically Star-Lord's father. I mean, the characters are still enjoyable. I'm still loving seeing the cast. It's really fun seeing these guys work together and talk to each other and make jokes with one another and stuff like that. I love Rocket and Groot's little side story. We learned a little more about Star-Lord in this one. I really liked his character in this one. He's like a really interesting character. I really enjoyed Star-Lord a lot. We see more of Gamora's and Nebula's relationship. There's some really fun action moments. There's some funny lines. There's a villain named Taserface, which I thought was pretty funny to have a villain named Taserface. The Golden people in this movie were pretty fun to watch. They were kind of like the Team Rocket side villains presented in this film. They weren't the main villains, but they were kind of like, oh, we're the villains that are going to chase the main characters types of villains, those kind of people. But still, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, it's still pretty good. I mean, I know I'm kind of not ranking it as good as the first one, since some of the flaws are just kind of like things they could have done a bit better compared to the first one. They could have like taken more risk in this one, and there are some risks being taken. There is a character that actually died in this movie, and it's pretty emotional. I just think the first one made more of a huge impact that didn't make anything that the second one did. But I still really liked it, and it's definitely worth being on this list. Number 8. Doctor Strange. Now, this was a pretty trippy movie to see, especially in 3D. It would probably blow your mind. I mean, you know, it was a pretty trippy movie. In fact, look, got this little Doctor Strange shirt right now. Haven't you noticed? We got little Dr. Stephen Strange. Funny enough, I actually got this shirt at GameStop. Out of all places I went to GameStop to get this shirt. And it's worth the price of admission. And the movie made me get this shirt, so I give credit to that. Another thing that made this movie work as well are the visuals. Now, these visuals are probably one of the best that Marvel has ever made in any of their movies in a very long time. And the thing that works about the visuals is the magic that is being presented. Benedict Cumberbatch does a pretty good job as the Dr. Stephen Strange, though in the beginning he's kind of douchey, like Tony Stark douchey. Though we get to like care for him later on, the movie starts to develop as a character. We got Tilda Swinton, who plays as the Ancient One, trains Benedict Cumberbatch's character, Dr. Stephen Strange. I really love the scene where she's first introduced and she touches Dr. Strange's forehead and he goes on this crazy psychedelic trip. I thought that was probably the highlight of the movie, was that forehead touch scene. That really that's a really trippy moment. And if you're ever high on any substance, that's a moment to really visually see no matter what. I'm not saying I'm promoting drugs. I'm not promoting any drugs. I'm just saying it made you feel high when you watch that moment. It's a very trippy psychedelic scene, as I can say. There's also really good visuals with the whole mirror dimension thing, where it felt like Inception, but way more interesting, way cooler. I mean, even though Inception's still a pretty good film, I feel like the visuals were done amazing in this one than Inception. And it should have gotten that Oscar win. I know Jungle Book won. I'm not really a big fan of these Disney live-action films, but I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about Marvel movies. This isn't live-action Disney movies. This is Marvel movies. The other side characters are fine. I know one of them becomes a villain at the end. The main villain was kind of weak. It was like those typical cut-out board Marvel villains where he kind of has the same power in a way as the main character. It's really a really weak part of the movie is the villains. And I'm going to be saying this a lot, that I'm going to say the villain's weak in these previous movies because Marvel just doesn't know how to make a good villain. Though there are some exceptional villains I really like right now, but still, they just don't really know the aspects of making a interesting Marvel villain at this point. It is still a pretty good film, I can tell you that. If you love magic or Harry Potter stuff, this is the type of film to watch if you're really into magic as a concept. Magic's like a really good art to study for. It's just a simple Marvel movie with some quirky jokes. Some of the jokes don't really land that well at the right moment, like I said about Civil War. Still, it's still the price of admissions if you want to see the visuals. That's probably the main focus, is the visuals and the action. Number 7. First Avengers. Yeah, it's not my favorite Marvel movie, but it's still a fun one. The reason why I kind of put Avengers at this rank is because even though I love the whole talking moments with each character, interacting with each other, it's really fun, but it just goes on and on and on. In fact, there's little action scenes in this Avengers movie. The big action moment is obviously the climax with the big New York fight scene, and it's well played off until that one moment that just kept going and going. At least that's what I thought when I first saw it, because when I first saw the Avengers, I didn't really see any of the Captain America movies or the Thor movies when I first saw them in theaters. I only knew about Iron Man and Hulk because I saw those movies. Then when I saw those movies, I grew to appreciate those other characters. Maybe that's kind of the reason why I didn't enjoy it the first time, because I didn't really grow with the movies that much until now. Till later on, when I really appreciate watching each of these movies. But I know the Avengers made a huge impact on being one of the greatest crossover events in a very long time, even though movie crossovers has been done multiple times, especially with the Universal monster movies. I wonder how they're doing with their Dark Universe reboots. Looks like it's going pretty well. Still, this was a groundbreaking movie, and this made other film studios try to copy and paste this type of style of having characters have their own solo movie and then have a big crossover event. Examples could be like DC, for example, and Fox is kind of doing that too. Though they're getting bought by Disney. I don't know if or if not, but they're getting to that point where the Fox movies are going to probably merge to the MCU. However, I really appreciate the action that was being presented, and the dialogue with the characters is also a very fun moment of the film, though it can drag on a bit. It was very known for being that one Marvel movie that everyone loved. Also, it's the last one that Paramount distributed until Disney took over as distributors. So, thank God, because Paramount did not do a good job with their first lineup of Marvel movies, except for another one I'm going to get to on this list. So yeah, Avengers, a fun action movie. Go check it out. You probably already have, because it's the 3rd highest grossing film of all time. And that's why it's 7 on my list. Number 6. Spider-Man Homecoming, otherwise known as my 3rd favorite Spider-Man film. Still love the first 2 by Sam Raimi, but it's definitely an improvement over Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man films. One thing that makes Spider-Man Homecoming work is not have the generic origin story, because everyone already knows about Spider-Man. And then that can be some complaints because it doesn't really add much to the character, but everyone already knows who Peter Parker is, how he became Spider-Man, why he became Spider-Man, and what he's doing. This one kind of takes a similar direction, except he's wanting to become a member of the Avengers, and he's doing everything he can to be that one hero, to be part of the main team. Even though Iron Man is in it, and he's rejecting Peter every time he wants to be a hero. So he makes him do like small-scale tasks in the movie. And that's the thing, the movie feels very small, not grand or groundbreaking or very impactful. It's just a small, entertaining superhero flick that everyone will enjoy no matter what, because it's Spider-Man, and everyone loves Spider-Man, you know? Spider-Man's the iconic Marvel hero we all know and love, and stuff like that. I really love the villain in this movie too. The villain was just amazing, I can tell you that. Michael Keaton does an excellent job as the Vulture. He might be one of the top tier Marvel villains that the MCU has released so far. You actually understand his purpose too. Like, he has actually like a purpose of why he wants to do this. And I love villains that have to have deep purpose that is very relatable and understandable. And that's what the Vulture does pretty well. And he doesn't die at the end. Yeah, I'm going to mention spoil in this, so get ready. So yeah, he doesn't die in the end, and he actually like understands his mistake and then gets locked up in jail. He doesn't get shot by Spider-Man like how Tony equipped that killing text part in his suit. I don't know. Like, you know, Tony Stark can just make another planet Earth he wants. He can make a Death Star if he wants to. I mean, why hasn't he? But still, this Spider-Man's more like the Tony Stark fanboy Spider-Man. That's what I remembered watching this, because this guy was obsessed with Tony Stark. In fact, the Spider-Man suit is kind of similar to the Iron Man suit in a way. So, yeah, looks like Peter Parker is trying to become the next Iron Man. Can't wait to see that appear with his Iron Spider suit, I guess. Still, the action hasn't made much of an impact compared to the other Marvel movies. That doesn't mean it's bad, it just doesn't take any risk and stuff. Also, like I said before in the other Marvel movies, the jokes could be a bit out of place. Especially this one scene where Michael Keaton's character, the Vulture, accidentally kills one of his men, and then he thought it was like a different gun, like it was like a joke. That really just, I mean, like, he should have been more threatening than that, than just being a jokester, which is kind of like a little point to take away from him being one of the top tiers of the MCU villains. Tom Holland playing as Spider-Man, he does a pretty good job. Not as great as my love, Tobey Maguire, who will always be my favorite Spider-Man, no matter what the amount of memes he became because of that movie. Then you should probably check it out. It's pretty good memes. Peter Parker's friend in that movie, he made a really funny line by the end of the movie. MJ was in it. I didn't really care about her character. You probably know who the MJ character I'm referring to. Zendaya, you know, the Zendaya from Shake It Up? Yes, Zendaya is in this, and it's, I mean, her character really kind of irritated me half the time. And Flash is in this too, and at first I didn't really like this version of Flash, but then I actually understood this version of Flash because it's kind of like comparing this to like a modern take of high school instead of your generic, oh, jocks are popular high school. Instead, it's like the tech nerds that are the most popular one, and I liked how they approached that. They made it more realistic in this Spider-Man movie and made teenagers act like actual teenagers. You know, those ones that like to go on the phone these days. Speaking of which, I'm gonna go on my phone right now. It looks like I got a little message right here, and let's see. Oh wow, yeah. Oh wow, let's check on my Snapchat updates, because you know, I'm a typical teenager who loves to go on Snapchat and post on Instagram. I don't go on Facebook anymore because it's for old people. Yeah, I'm the oldest teenager ever. It's a great entry of the Spider-Man in the Marvel Extended Universe. Number 5. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This has got to be the best Captain America movie that has come. Excuse me. Captain America: Winter Soldier has got to be the best Captain America movie that has ever came out. It's a very fun action movie. The Russo brothers know their way of using the shaky cam and cinematography. There are some really cool moments where Captain America kicks a guy off the boat and kicks him really hard and stuff like that. I love those moments when Captain America shows some action. You can actually watch this and not see the first one, though I recommend see the first one for other reasons too. Still, this one actually does a bit better than the first one in a way, because it has a better way of filming. Even though the first Captain America is cool, it is kind of a bit outdated with its visuals and like ways of like lighting and stuff. It just felt a bit off, and I know it's from the same guy who directed The Rocketeer, and he wants to show his flair style, and it's kind of cool, but it just didn't really like leave an impact on me. Winter Soldier really blew my mind when I first saw it. In fact, I was a little bit late when I saw it. I should have been the first one. I don't know why I skipped it, but it was worth the price of admission. You really actually like get to know some deep secrets about the S.H.I.E.L.D. agency and how they're actually Hydra in disguise. It's kind of a interesting kind of like spy thriller or spy movie with like a lot of action and Captain America punching things and blowing stuff up, and Black Widow's in it. She does some cool kick-ass moments. You got Samuel Mother effing Jackson in the house, and he's still doing some cool stuff in this movie. You got Captain's buddy Bucky Barnes came back as well, and he knows that he's being mind-controlled in this entire movie, which is actually a later plot device in the Civil War movie. But even though he was pretty cool, he was kind of a bit weak. I mean, the villains weren't anything meh or granted and stuff like that. I feel like their plan was, they had a pretty interesting plan. They just weren't memorable, I don't think. And Bucky's not really a villain anymore. He's kind of more of a Avenger at this point, I think. Yeah, I think Avenger, I don't know. what he's considered. He's not a villain anymore, I can tell you that. But this has a lot of grand action moments, and I know I'm going to say action a lot. I love the design of Captain America's suit, way better than his appearance in the Avengers, which was kind of like cheesy. This one was more realistic and well put together. I feel like the costume designers did a pretty cool job portraying a more realistic Captain America suit. Overall, this was a very step up with Marvel, releasing a solo-ish kind of Captain America movie. Though I kind of didn't understand why the Avengers didn't come in. We only had two, which was Black Widow and Captain America. Oh well. Alright, next up is Black Panther. Yep, Black Panther's on this list, so yay. Black Panther's pretty good. The thing that works about Black Panther is the world that it establishes, Wakanda. It's a really interesting world to explore. I kind of wish they dived deep into it a bit more, but what they had is what they had. I love the director of this movie. He directed two of my other favorite movies, Creed and Fruitvale Station. Definitely ones to check out. Black Panther's pretty cool, even though I kind of didn't really buy off of Chadwick Baldwin's acting. I find him to be now an overrated actor because he's known as Black Panther, Black Panther. Then also the movie is a bit overhyped when it first came out. People appreciate it as the best Marvel movie. I appreciate it as a great Marvel movie. Not my all-time favorite, we'll get to that, but it's still a great one to check out. The costume design is beautiful. The sets were pretty cool. The action was iffy at times, but it still made it up with some cool moments. And how can I not forget about the main villain of this movie? Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan. An answer to a great Marvel villain. This is how you write a great Marvel villain, guys. Take notes. Or even a great villain overall. This guy is probably one of the best superhero villains since Heath Ledger's The Dark Knight. And I know I'm saying a lot. I mean, he's definitely better than Bane by a long shot. The thing that makes Killmonger such a great villain is that you understand where he's coming from as well. Much more than Michael Keaton's Vulture in Spider-Man. He's very relatable. You understand what he wants to do because he came from a life that he wasn't raised royalty like the people in Wakanda. And when he finds out a deep dark secret behind it, he does everything he can to take back the throne and get vengeance on those who did harm to his father. And also, Michael B. Jordan is just a really talented actor. I'm glad he rose back from the dead after a fan force stick. This was a coming back of Michael B. Jordan being a talented actor once again. And you show how hard he works to be this villain and portray the menacing ideal of what he is. So yeah, Black Panther's a great movie. Do I have problems with it? Yes. My problems are those rhinos. They look fake, and the CGI isn't that impressive, and sometimes I have trouble seeing the action, especially from the very beginning. Fight scene was just hard to look at because it was in dark. Black Panther's black and dark, and it was just I couldn't understand what was going on because it was shot in dark. You could add a little bit of lighting or something for me to see what the physicality is going on. Don't make him as serious as Batman. We all know who Black Panther is from Civil War. The side characters are really cool too. I love his sister, I love the Royal Guards, I love his love interests. They are pretty cool characters. They're much more better characters than Black Panther himself. So yeah, Black Panther has some flaws, but it's still one of my top favorite Marvel movies, especially how much of an impact it has made, being that one Marvel movie that is now the highest on Rotten Tomatoes with a 97%, I think. Maybe. We'll see when I look back into it. Iron Man 1, the best one of the Iron Man trilogy, and the one that kickstarted the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now this was an odd choice to start the Marvel movies with Iron Man, because I didn't really know anything about Iron Man. I didn't read the comics, I only knew him from the direct-to-video television special, The Invincible Iron Man, that was on Toonami a couple of years before this movie. I guess it came out just to promote it, I guess. But this Iron Man movie is still great to watch to this day. It's really cool to see Tony Stark doing Tony Stark stuff, like making gadgets, stuff for his suit. The scenes where he's flying around are pretty cool. I love when he's not Iron Man, he's just a douchebag playboy billionaire. And it really shows the way how it's filmed and constructed of who this character is. like Robert Downey Jr. really redeemed himself as an actor from this movie. This movie basically saved his career after all the crazy stuff from before with his drug addiction. But this movie is a really comeback for this character, or this actor. Gwyneth Paltrow's still pretty good in this movie. Jeff Bridges is in this as well as the villain. I didn't really feel any sympathy or interest in the main villain of this. In fact, he was kind of the weakest aspect of the film. But I really dig Jeff Bridges' acting. His acting kind of made it up in a way. And the visuals in this were groundbreaking, I think, at the time. This came out at the same time as The Dark Knight, and these two were at the top in 2008. Which is surprising. 2008 was 10 years ago. But these two were just on the top of being the top best superhero movies that year. You got Iron Man and The Dark Knight. Now, I know The Dark Knight overshadowed Iron Man, but Iron Man still made some money back. So give it a pat on the back if you want. That after credits scene was pretty shocking when I first saw it, because I didn't know, oh, the Avengers. I gotta look into that. I know a bit about them, not a lot. Because before Iron Man, the only thing Marvel related that I was into was the X-Men and Spider-Man, and a little bit of the Fantastic Four. I thought Hulk was okay, I didn't really get into him that much, but I was more into the X-Men, Spider-Man, and Fantastic Four, which are not from this, which half of them are not even in these movies yet, so, I mean, half of them are by Fox, Sony, so basically I was more into the non-MCU heroes before I discovered the MCU. So yeah, Iron Man was a gateway to introducing me to all these other Marvel movies, and I thought Iron Man was just going to be a trilogy and nothing else. I did not expect it to be an entire cinematic universe, so it gets itself a thumbs up. Number 2, the fun Marvel movie that I enjoyed last year was Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok is a definition of what a Marvel movie is supposed to be about. You got some comic book characters making one-liners, images that are influenced from the early Jack Kirby comics, out of this world setting that is not on Earth half the time. It's from another trashy planet that is well put together. You got a director that actually loves to have fun with these characters and loves to mess around on sets but still have fun with it at the same time. It's all over the place. It's basically watching a awesome, over-the-top superhero movie. And that's saying a lot. This is actually the best Thor movie ever, actually, because the other Thor movies, they suck. They're not that great. This one makes it up for being the exact opposite of what a Thor movie is supposed to be. You cut Thor's hair off, you take away his hammer, you take away his girlfriend, you take away his father, you bring back Loki, because everyone loves Loki in these Thor movies the most. And you got Hulk, which is awesome to see a Planet Hulk storyline being portrayed in this movie. Though it's impossible to get a solo Hulk movie because Universal owns the right to make solo Hulk movies, so they can't allow Marvel to make one. So the only solution is to add him into other Marvel movies, which is pretty cool. I like that. The thing that works is the fun moments it's presented with. I also love the soundtrack in this. It's very synthesized, kind of 80s feel kind of soundtrack. Jeff Goldblum was pretty funny. I love Valkyrie. Valkyrie was just a fun character to watch as well. How she's sort of a drunken junkster kind of warrior who has a lot of cool action scenes in it. Loki is still funny and over the top. And then you got Korg. Gotta give credit to Korg in this because Korg just really makes the movie for me. I know Korg is actually voiced by the director Taika Waititi, is that his name? And he does a great job. I really like the director of this movie. I want to see more of his works. I know I haven't seen any of it yet, but I'm definitely down to check it out. So let me know which movie you want me to see from Taika Waititi, and I'll make sure to check it out, maybe review it in the future. And the number 1 Marvel Cinematic Universe movie is Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep, I'm putting Guardians as number 1. Why? Because it's on Earth, which is kind of like a boring setting most of the time with these Marvel movies. It's in another galaxy. You got a bunch of characters, all different alien races coming together. Very diverse. Feels like a family type of movie. because you got like a group of people coming together that are from nowhere. And I love the soundtrack that James Gunn is able to convey in this, where it's basically a bunch of 80s soundtrack music or from the 70s. It's very well blended to its style. It's kind of like a comedy version of Cowboy Bebop, or it's like a mixture of it with Fifth Element. I know it's an origin story too, but you really actually get to feel for these characters and where they're coming from. And it's awesome seeing them coming together and working together, even though they really hate each other a lot. My real problem with this movie is actually the main villain again. Like, Marvel does a terrible job with villains. I don't know why. They just need to, like, stop making really crappy villains. I don't know. Just stop, Marvel. Stop making really crappy villains, and let's move on with our lives. Ronan the Accuser is very forgettable. Also, there's a little teaser of Thanos in this. I mean, you can easily take it out and have it not in there, but you can see why they had it in there, so they can tease Infinity War, which I can see Marvel do again. But still, Guardians of the Galaxy just feels like a different movie because it's not in the same universe as every superhero macho movie. It's just a fun sci-fi action film. That's all it is. It doesn't even feel like a superhero movie. It's just a movie on its own. And I think that's what the movie does best, because it doesn't include any Easter egg continuity from the other Marvel movies besides having Thanos in there and some of the Infinity Stones references. But if you haven't seen any other Marvel movies, you'll still get a fun watch out of this one. Even though Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite Marvel movie, I still like watching the other ones. They're still fun, entertaining action movies at its time. They might get a bit like outdated later on because, you know, it's like Western, it's gonna die out soon. But for what it is, it really leaves a huge impact in the film industry of making so much money at the box office. Having critics being like, oh, it's pretty good, it's great. Never really gets like a rotten review on Rotten Tomatoes. And even though there's some I hate, I still make it up for what it tries to do, at least, of it being in its same universe. And also, Kevin Feige is such a talented producer. He knows what the fans want and what they want. And it's that example of why the Marvel Cinematic Universe is good at where it's at. It learns how to be its own entire film franchise while borrowing materials from the comics to make both general audience and comic book fans alike to enjoy these types of movies. Well, that's it about the Marvel movies. Let me know which one's your favorite and leave a comment below. I'm Keegz, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.